Chapter 4: Shadows of a Crime Family. The Rossi family's estate was a monument to quiet power. Hidden behind wrought iron gates and sprawling gardens, the mansion loomed with an air of understated menace. Its elegant facade masked decades of blood money and illicit deals. Inside, the heart of the operation was as cold and calculating as the man who sat at its center. Dominic Rossi swirled the amber liquid in his glass, his sharp eyes fixed on the roaring fire in the marble hearth. Around him, his inner circle gathered: Maria, his sister, and second in command; Joey Eyes Fontana, the tech genius; and Tony the Hammer Luciano, still nursing his shoulder wound from the recent police raid. "We have a problem," Dominic began, his voice calm but laced with steel. He turned to Maria, whose stern features mirrored his own. "Chris Webb is dead, and the cops are sniffing around." "More than sniffing," Maria said, her tone sharp. "That Detective Walsh, she's relentless. She's been poking at us for years. Now she's got this new angle, and she's not letting go." Dominic leaned back in his chair, considering her words. "Walsh, she's the one whose brother we dealt with, isn't she?" Maria nodded. 3 years ago. She's still holding on to it like a dog with a bone." Dominic let out a soft chuckle, though his expression remained cold. "Grief makes people reckless. It also makes them predictable. We can use that." Tony, seated near the edge of the room, shifted uncomfortably. "Boss, she's got a reputation. She doesn't scare easy." Dominic's gaze snapped to Tony, silencing him with a look. "Everyone has a breaking point, Tony. Even Walsh. We just have to find hers." Joey tapped away at his laptop, pulling up surveillance footage from the docks. The room fell silent as the grainy image of Marcus Dalton appeared on the screen. He was handing something to Detective Lena Walsh, a slip of paper, barely visible in the frame. "There he is," Joey said, his voice tinged with satisfaction. "Marcus Dalton, Chris Webb's cousin. I knew something was off with him." Maria's lips curled into a slow, predatory smile. "You think he's the leak?" "He's close to Walsh," Joey said, magnifying the image. "Too close, and now he's meeting her in the dead of night. It's not hard to connect the dots." Dominic stood, his glass still in hand, and approached the screen. He studied the image for a long moment before speaking. "If Dalton is talking to the cops, it won't take long for Walsh to build a case." Maria leaned forward, her voice low and venomous. "Then we handle it. We've let him skate by for too long. He thinks he's clever, but he's not untouchable." Dominic shook his head. "Not yet. If we move on him now, we confirm what Walsh suspects. We let him think he's safe, and we use him to our advantage." "And Walsh?" Maria asked. Dominic's expression darkened, his voice turning icy. "She's been a thorn in our side for years. It's time we remind her who owns this city." Later that night, Dominic met with Maria in his private study. The firelight danced across the walls, casting shadows that seemed to mirror their whispered plans. "We need to tighten our grip," Dominic said, pouring himself another drink. "No more slip-ups, no more loose ends. This family runs on loyalty, and if there's even a hint of disloyalty, it's dealt with," Maria finished. "You don't have to tell me twice." Dominic regarded her for a moment, his expression softening just slightly. "You've always been my sharpest weapon, Maria. Don't let me down." She gave him a tight smile, her confidence unwavering. "I never do." Across town, Marcus sat alone in his apartment, oblivious to the storm gathering around him. The burner phone on his table buzzed, and he jumped, his heart pounding as he reached for it. The screen displayed a single message: "You're being watched. Stay careful." His stomach twisted. He didn't recognize the number, but the message was clear. The Rossis were onto him, or someone else was. Marcus paced the room, his mind racing. He thought of Lena, of the risks she'd taken to bring him into this. He thought of Chris, of the life he'd lost, and the secrets he'd carried to his grave. Most of all, he thought of the noose tightening around his own neck, every choice pulling it tighter. Grabbing the burner phone, he typed a message to Lena. We need to meet. Urgent. In the precinct's dimly lit war room, Lena Walsh was reviewing files when her phone buzzed. She glanced at the message from Marcus, her jaw tightening. Urgent wasn't a word Marcus used lightly. Whatever he had to tell her, it wasn't going to be good. She grabbed her jacket and headed for the door. As she stepped outside, the city's cold night air bit at her skin. She pulled the collar up and scanned the street, her instincts on high alert. The Rossi family was always 3 steps ahead, and tonight she could feel their shadow looming larger than ever. Back at the Rossi estate, Dominic stood alone in the darkened room, his gaze fixed on the city skyline. His mind was a machine, already working through the moves he would make. "Walsh," he murmured, a faint smirk playing on his lips. "Let's see how far you're willing to go." The game was in motion, and Dominic Rossi never played to lose.